This isn't a random moment, so my child, stop what you're doing and pay close attention. You did not accidentally open this mail. Something has been decided in the unseen, which is why I have you here. You begged, waited, and silently cried. And you kept asking yourself whether I had forgotten. However, I haven't. While you were sleeping, I worked on your behalf, and now I must inform you that your case is closed. Heaven's court has already heard the pain you carried for so long. I've overruled the delay that sapped your hope. I saw the unfairness. I noticed the person who ignored you, and even though no one could see you breaking down, I could see how hard you tried to remain faithful. That's why I'm taking over right now. To let go of what was suppressed, not to punish. I'm taking the load off of you. I'm going to unlock the door. Preparation was what you believed to be the end. And the wait is over now, my kid. There are things I've witnessed, my child, that you've never mentioned aloud. The late-night struggles. The times when your hands shook as you struggled to keep yourself together, the quiet spots where you sobbed in private. I witnessed you crumbling under the burden of questions you dared not ask, even though others believed you were all right. Why isn't anything changing, you asked yourself. And the darkness you murmured. How much longer, Lord? Additionally, I was writing the verdict even though it appeared that I was silent. I was getting ready for the release because I react to purpose rather than pressure. And I never forgot you, my darling. You were just being prepared for a promise too big, to come too soon. He noticed me. Do not take my silence as absence if you know that God saw your silent struggle. I was closer than your breath when you felt alone. It wasn't because you weren't worthy that you inquired about the reason behind the answer's delay. It was because I was making sure that everything was in order so that no man could claim credit when it was released. It was guarding against sabotage of the result. I see things that you do not. I hear whispers behind your back, but you don't hear them. However, I did. And I was aware that if I granted you your wish too soon, it would be handled by people who shouldn't have received your blessing. So I waited. I waited to protect what was rightfully yours, not to punish. Please take note, readers. This is more than just a message. If you think that this delay now makes sense, then don't name your future. It is your divine closure notice. You've resolved the issue that was looming over your life. Heaven's record no longer bears the weight. The influence of the person who attempted to control your future has been removed. That scenario that went on and on like an endless test is over. You are about to accelerate right in front of the people who assumed you would remain stuck. And since I'm going to make up for the time that was taken from you, they won't realize how fast things change. Read and take your time. If you think that God is giving you back what you lost, it won't be slow when it starts, my child. It won't. Be subtle. Doors that were previously sealed shut will start to open with ease as if heaven had pressed a button. You won't have to elaborate. There will be no need for self-defense. You will be able to see the proof in your life. and those who previously questioned your calling will be forced to admit that I have a hand on you. Engage in meditation. Let's get started. My dear child, if you're prepared to accept what has already been written for you, you can see how many times I've filled in for you without your knowledge. Even though the enemy set traps on some nights, you managed to escape unharmed. Meetings were arranged with the intention of delaying your calling, confusing your heart, and emotionally exhausting you to the point where you would lose sight of your identity. However, I forbade it. You believe that everything is quiet around you. But that is only because I put an end to the schemes that were developing against you before they could become fully developed. You weren't left behind. You were safe. You weren't turned away. You were taken to a different location. You weren't forgotten. You were set aside for something more important. I was preparing the kind of breakthrough that would leave no doubts. But even in your own heart, despite the fact that the world judged you for how little progress you seemed to be making, I closed the case to start the restoration process rather than to put an end to the conflict. I will now demonstrate that I was never late. All I was doing was setting things up so that nobody could take them back. You won't have to explain yourself to those who don't understand you because of what's about to happen. I'm taking away your need to look for approval from people who didn't value you when all you had to offer was love, loyalty, and faith. Now, the same people who in private denigrated your name will see me exalting you in public. You are not rewarded for surviving by the season you are entering. It is the inevitable result of compliance under duress. When it got tough, you didn't turn on me. I wasn't cursed by you when it was quiet. You remained. You persevered. Wait a little longer, I whispered, and now you'll understand what I meant. I'm still not done. This is where the suffering turns into a platform, my child. At this point, the tears turn into the testimony. At this point, the delays turn into a gateway. You've changed since you pleaded with me for clarification months ago. You've matured. Where you needed mercy, you've been softer. Where you needed courage, you've been stronger. The version of you I've been working on is now prepared for the future I've been guarding. They have no idea how much it cost you to remain silent when you had the opportunity to defend yourself, even though your heart cried out for justice. They were blind to the nights you let it go. However, I did. I gauged your self-control. I observed your posture. And I kept track of every second you gave me to defend you rather than stepping in front of me, my timing. Your name is being released into rooms that you haven't yet entered as a result. Favor is being redirected to you as a result. The court of heaven has pronounced you free as a result, and the burden of accusation has been removed. The case has closed, both visibly and spiritually. Your relationships, finances, and sense of calm are all going to undergo a visible change. Soon, you won't be the only one who questions whether God remembered. How did everything change for you so fast? Will be the question that people ask you. And you will smile then, not with pride, but with silent wonder. Because the answer is obvious. I never abandoned you. I continued to work. All I did was wait for the world to discover what I've always known about you. Right, I waited, and now I'm ready in the comments if the words seem to have been taken from your own journey, and your heart feels this strongly. Show the enemy that you are still standing with faith, with humility, and with expectation by letting the heavens witness your agreement. I saw you, my child, standing on the verge of giving up, not because you were without faith, but because you were worn out. The kind of exhaustion that creeps into the soul, making even your prayers seem pointless. I secretly wondered who would ever show up for you as I watched you show up for others. Additionally, I'm aware that there were times when you persuaded yourself that perhaps what you had been waiting for wasn't really for you. I couldn't let you give up, though, because what lies ahead is an assignment as much as a blessing, blending, and was never your intention. For this reason, where others succeeded, things didn't work out. You continued to be delayed in areas where others progressed more readily because of this. You weren't being punished by me. I was laying out a route that only you could follow, one that would only call for obedience rather than performance. You didn't have to be strong from me every day. All I needed was for you to remain nearby, and even though it seemed like I was nowhere to be found, you did. Even if you were sitting there in silence, wondering if I had changed my mind about you, you remained. I am currently moving because of this. The case has been closed as a result, because even though you had every reason to turn away, you decided to trust me. Avoid comparing the timelines that are developing around you with your own. Following the herd was never your purpose, because what I'm doing in you requires sacred preparation rather than public attention. I have purposefully kept you hidden. Why hasn't it happened yet? We've been asking. However, you would have attempted to carry it with a version of yourself that still craved praise and approval in order to feel rooted if I had given it to you sooner. Now, though, I see a quiet confidence in you. A strength that comes from being maintained rather than from being noticed. You've mastered the art of slow listening. To let go without holding grudges. To wait without resentment. And I was hoping for that kind of development. Your next chapter won't be based on desperation because of this. Alignment will serve as its foundation. I'm sending people who won't mistake your presence for performance. You won't be asked to prove yourself before I open the doors. The upcoming favor will be pure. It won't be purchased, haggled for, or linked to guilt. Shame won't have to follow you into this new era. I took it off. I deleted it. This spiritual, emotional, and relational case against you has been closed and sealed by grace. And now I need you to believe it even when the atmosphere hasn't shifted yet. Even when the evidence hasn't arrived. I need you to believe that I am still a God of completion. That I finish what I began. And what I began in you, even in your lowest season, was not a mistake. I did not miscalculate your strength. I did not forget your deadline. I did not overlook your tears. I was simply preparing the kind of deliverance that would not only lift you but mark your life. Others will witness your comeback, not for your glory, but so they'll know that I still move. Or I still speak. I still redeem what was nearly destroyed. Type I still believe in the comments if you know deep down that this is your confirmation. Let it be your agreement with heaven. Let it be your final answer to fear. I still believe. My child, there is a reason why certain people couldn't stay in your life, no matter how tightly you held on. I allowed the disconnection, not to wound you, but to preserve you. There were connections that looked right to the world. But we're draining you in ways you didn't even notice. I watched you try to keep peace while your spirit was slowly breaking under pressure that I never asked you to carry. There were people who spoke well of you in public, but silently resented your calling in private. You sensed it, but you doubted your own discernment, thinking maybe it was just you. But it wasn't just you. It was me removing influence that was never meant to grow alongside your promise, because what I am building in you now requires alignment, not attachment. If you had stayed bound to those who didn't honor your spirit, they would have entered this new season with entitlement, believing they were part of the miracle when they never honored the sacrifice. That is why I allowed this separation not to isolate you, but to clear the space for real covenant-level people to enter. Those who don't just see your potential, but protect your peace. Those who don't drain you to feel powerful, but pour into you without needing a stage. The case is closed on counterfeit support. You will now walk with those who see you as I see you, covered, chosen, and set apart. There is also a reason why some doors land shut just when you were certain they would open. You thought you had done everything right. You prayed. You obeyed, you even fasted. And still, it ended. And you asked me, why would you lead me here if it wasn't going to work out? But you must understand I don't waste detour. What you called failure, I was using as a filter. That place, that opportunity, that relationship, that brought things out of you that needed to surface. Your ability to love even when it hurt, your courage to walk away when you had every reason to stay, your willingness to start again when others would have settled. I never intended for that season to define you. It was meant to shape you. And now, because of it, you are wiser. You are spiritually sharper. You've learned to hear my voice even in chaos. And that is why what's coming next will not require striving. It will require stillness. You won't have to force this door open. It will recognize you. It will respond to what I've placed on your life, not your resume, not your title, but your obedience. And when it opens, you'll know it's me because it will feel like peace, not pressure. There are blessings I've kept hidden not because you didn't deserve them, but because the atmosphere around you wasn't safe for their release. Some things are reserved for a more mature version of you, the one who no longer begs people to understand her worth, the one who doesn't water herself down to be accepted, the one who doesn't fear being alone, because she's finally realized I've never left. And now that this version of you has emerged, so will the things I've been holding. It will look sudden, but you'll know it's been building all along. My child, you are not behind. You are not cursed. You are not late. You are on my time. and my time is never wrong. If this is speaking to your spirit and you feel the shift deep within, type "the delay was protection" in the comments, because now what was delayed is being released, and what was broken is being redeemed. My child, I know there are moments when you've questioned your own prayers. You wonder if the words you whispered into the darkness ever reached me. You replay moments where you asked boldly, believed bravely, and still saw no shift. And you ask that I do something wrong? Hear me clearly. This is not a punishment. It never was. What felt like abandonment was actually sacred training. You weren't just waiting, you were becoming. I needed to grow your roots deeper before I revealed what was blooming above the surface. If I had answered too quickly, you would have thought. Your power was in the prayer itself, not in your trust in me, but your trust, your willingness to return to me again and again. Even when nothing changed, that trust is what moved heaven. Your faith wasn't fake just because you doubted sometimes. In fact, your real faith showed up strongest in the moments when you chose to believe, even while trembling. That's why I am about to show you what it means to be rewarded, not just for results, but for resilience. You didn't fake your strength, you borrowed mine. And now, my child, you will see that I did not ignore your cry. I timed your breakthrough so perfectly that even the enemy will have to admit this had to be God. The path I took you on was never about speed. It was about stability. I wasn't interested in giving you a temporary miracle. I've been preparing you for lasting transformation. The kind that doesn't collapse under pressure, the kind that doesn't depend on outside applause. I've been forging in you something eternal. That's why I let the crowds walk away. That's why I allowed the silence to linger. Because I wasn't just changing your circumstances, I was changing your spiritual posture. You are no longer a servant of fear. You are no longer shackled to shame. You are no longer dancing for validation that never belonged to you. I have closed the case on those lies. I have shattered the change of false identity. And now I will raise you in front of those who once questioned your worth, not for pride, but for purpose. They will see that I was with you, even when no one else stayed. They will see that my fingerprints were all over the delays. And when they ask how you're still standing, you will simply say, "Grace held me when nothing else could." You don't need to fight for recognition anymore. I am sending confirmation. I am sending divine proof. And not just through signs and feelings, but through open doors that no one will be able to shut. I am sending peace in places where there used to be panic. I am sending joy where sorrow tried to take root. You will no longer live in spiritual survival mode. I am shifting you into stability, not the kind the world gives, but the kind that comes when you know deep in your spirit. God has settled this. The case is closed. You are free. You are restored. You are safe in me. And now everything the enemy tried to use to shame you, I will use to elevate you. If your soul feels that truth breaking open right now, type "Grace held me" in the comments. Say it for yourself. say it for every day you had to hold on when nothing made sense. Because now the shift is real, and heaven is confirming what you've carried alone for far too long. My child, I know what it feels like to be questioned by those who never saw your struggle. To be judged by the chapter you're currently walking through while no one has read the pages that came before. You've endured being misunderstood, mislabeled, even misused, and still you kept your heart open. You loved without limits, forgave without applause, and stood firm when it would have been easy to fold. But what you didn't know is that I counted every moment. I counted the tears you wiped away, alone. I counted the insults you swallowed just to keep the peace. I counted the quiet yes you gave me, even when your soul was trembling with fatigue. And now because of what I counted in private, I will honor you in public, not in the way the world gives credit, but in the way heaven confirms identity. You are not who they said you were. You are not who your past tried to reduce you to. You are not the version of yourself you were forced to become just to survive. You are mine. You are marked. You are chosen. And I am closing the book on every false label that tried to rewrite the story I've written for you. You've asked me quietly, Lord, do they even know how much I've suffered? But my child, they don't need to know because I know. I was there every time your voice cracked mid-prayer. I was there when you opened your hands and gave up things you loved just to obey me. I was there when you sat in silence, not because you didn't care, but because you didn't have the words left to fight for yourself. And now because you let me be your strength when you were weak, I will show you what it means to be lifted by grace. You won't have to promote yourself. I've already sent angels ahead of you to arrange the alignment, the right people, the right timing, the right places. I've written it all. I've confirmed it all. And no one, no critic, no enemy, no memory can undo what I've finalized in heaven. My justice is not like man's justice. It does not seek revenge. It restores balance. And that's what I'm doing now, balancing the scale, lifting the weight, declaring peace over the parts of your story that once echoed with confusion. You no longer have to chase clarity. I'm bringing it to you, not just in words, but in results. I'm showing you that the wait wasn't a waste, it was a weaving. I was stitching together a future you couldn't have imagined if I showed it to you early. But now you're ready to carry it. Now you're strong enough to hold it without breaking. Now you're steady enough to walk into it without needing to rush. If your heart is absorbing this like rain on dry ground, type, he's balancing the scale in the comments. Because yes, this is what divine justice looks